to this review of my Keydous NJ98CP Pro. This was a donation from Keydous. This is the third keyboard from them that I've reviewed so far, and I already alluded to this keyboard in the previous video I did, which was on the normal NJ98, basically the same keyboard except with electromechanical switches, whereas this one is Hall effect. Now, the normal NJ98 was a fairly decent 96% hot swap keyboard with a built-in calculator for $133. Not bad considering you got a steel plate as well at that price point, and it was surprisingly well made, so I kinda liked it. However, this contactless version is only $10 more expensive, which sounds like a much better deal, particularly because I found the switches in the other version too responsive. This one has contactless switches with adjustable actuation, so they did it right, I think. You can get it with an aluminium plate or a brass one, but not a steel plate, probably due to the magnets, and it's hot swappable, which is nice, but bizarrely they even offer a PCB that can mount both Hall effect and electromechanical switches, which is kind of baffling to me. For a while, people have been asking me about these Hall effect keyboards, whether you could also just put MX switches in them, and until now I naturally kept saying no, because they work completely differently, and it would be a ridiculous thing to do, but now someone has gone and actually made one, so joke's on me, I guess. This is in fact one of those versions. It's called the NJ98CP Pro as opposed to the normal NJ98CP, and as you can see it does have Kailh type hot swap sockets for MX type switches as well, although I've tried it and I should point out two limitations. First of all, they fell for the rookie mistake of not including holes for the fixing pins. The gaskets on top have them, but the PCB doesn't, so you can only put in switches that don't have fixing pins. And second, I put in a few switches, but it isn't properly registered them, so either it's not working properly, or you can only use one of the two switch types at a time, I'm not sure, and I didn't find any setting in the software that allows you to toggle between the two. Now, these switches are Kailh X Keydous magnetic switches with an ochre or salmon or something slider color. Apparently they're fully made out of POM. I don't think they're factory lubed, but a good contactless switch doesn't need it in my opinion. The sound is something that I think my viewers that like modern keyboards will appreciate a lot. It sounds very similar to more custom type MX loop job foamy keyboards, which is remarkable because many contactless switches don't sound like this. It's probably to do with the chassis, and it also has a foam gasket in it, like I pointed out earlier. Personally, I'd say if you want a linear keyboard for the sound, you really only have Alps as an option. But that's quite a different product you're looking at, obviously. As for switch weight, it's surprisingly stiff. Most contactless linear switches are absolutely featherweight, which I like, and also why I like adjustable actuation so much, because that way you can have very effortless typing without each switch being on a hair trigger. It's the best of both worlds in my opinion. These feel more like MX Reds or something, or maybe a bit stiffer even. Still not that heavy, but the difference is definitely there. So if you're looking for something contactless that doesn't feel like typing on clouds, even though that's one of the best things about them in my opinion, then maybe this one is for you. As you would expect of a Hall effect keyboard, it's pretty smooth. I don't think they're quite on the level as some of the other contactless boards I've covered before, and if you press the keycaps all the way on the edge, they do bind a little bit, but still it's not bad overall. I wouldn't call it unbeatably smooth though. The software used for setting the actuation point as well as programming the macros, yes it has macros as well, looks really janky, and for no reason that I can think of, it's 235 megabytes in size. Plus, rather suspiciously, it keeps trying to connect to the internet, but fuck that, I'm not letting this through my firewall. In any case, it looks jank as fuck, but it's actually quite intuitive to use. I didn't need to look up anything at all, it was quite self-explanatory. Programming macros is pretty easy to do too, even though it looks weird. That said, every time you change the actuation on a key, you need to save it to the keyboard or the change is lost, which is a bit silly. I think they need to patch that out. The keycaps this time are their shadow set. They offer 5 different sets, and it's possibly the most saddening aspect of the whole board. This set is double shot PBT, which is good, but this set is also pretty cheap, which helps bring down the price, I guess. But it's got front printed legends, and not only is the font horrendous, they're stenciled of all things, which look butt ugly. It's like this Calypso I just found. It is fucking minging. Paradise Punch Lemonade. And to make things worse, 3 keycaps are duplicates. I don't know if you've noticed it before, but it's got 2 6s, 2 Js, and 2 Ls, which is just stupid. I've never seen that before on any keyboard. They said they'd send me some replacements, but either they forgot to or they've gotten lost in the mail somewhere because I didn't get any. Some other less than optimal things are that the calculator, which is very useful by the way, isn't triggered by the calculator button, which is this one here, but that opens the calculator in Windows instead, which is a big oversight that I hope they change because that would make it much nicer to use, and the form factor is not really good, or at least it isn't for me. Compared to a standard full size, you save only about 4 centimeters, or 1.5 inch if you're blue, red and white inclined, by cramming the nav alphanumeric block and the numpad into each other, but it becomes much more difficult to control and especially find the keys. That's a personal thing, of course, but I honestly don't see the point. Full size is barely any bigger, and it's so much nicer to use. Or if you must save space, either get a 10 keyless or a navless or something even smaller if you're crazy, but this just feels like no gains for a lot of pains. In other aspects, it's the same as the normal NJ98, so I'm not going to go into such detail again, but I do think it's an improvement, especially as it only costs a tenner more, which also makes it one of the cheaper contactless options on the market, as it happens. So yeah, I think it's pretty decent, not perfect for sure, a fair few small niggles, and more of an entry-level contactless keyboard than a true enthusiast level one, but it's nice that these are becoming more affordable these days. Along those lines, I should be getting another keyboard in soon, which goes even further in that respect. That's it for this review. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and following is a typing demonstration of me typing on this keyboard. Suck your dad.